first is start as early as possible and don't waste your time.
Mm.
Define your priorities and each day study something new and don't hesitate to ask. People are open when they are asked. So if you have a question, you may ask someone and he will respond definitely.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of the Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that has built several businesses or startups into 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as a founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where we help startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. And if you ever need help with your patents or trademarks, feel free to go to strategymeeting.com and we're always here to help. Now, today we have another great guest on the podcast, and it's Maxim, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his last name. I'm going to call him Maxim S or Max S. But Max is he has been calling himself, or certainly would call himself, an entrepreneur. He's been in the software architecture and security space, as well as the AI or artificial intelligence space for quite a while. Prelude to that, he's been in the software engineer for about 15 years. So he got his software engineering degree out of school. He worked for some smaller businesses doing security research and software development, jumped around a bit and did some higher level tasks, worked for a small or big business for a short stint, and then moved back into smaller businesses before then kind of going off and doing his own thing, which is what he's doing today with AI and software security. So with that much as an introduction, welcome onto the podcast, Max.
Hi, Devin. Hi, guys.
So I gave a short introduction on you, but maybe let's take your journey back to when you got your software engineering degree and kind of tell us how you got, or how that started with you.
Yeah, I will come with a longer introduction. So what I do is two things, data analysis and data transmission. I'm keen for both. The first one is mathematical modeling. And I do markets, events modeling, text analysis, some predictions, data predictions, and so on and so forth. The second one is software security architecture. And I built a number of products during my life, and which are strongly related to software security. And what I do now is mostly data transmission security. So data trust, cryptography, network protocols, all together comes to a big security complex. That's what I do in the security space.
So no, and I think that's a good introduction. It's kind of now what you do. So, as you can guess, and the Inventive Journey is all about the journey, right? So part of where it's at is how did you get to where you're at today, and how did you get into AI and doing the business and building things around that you've done over your career. So now let's take that journey back in time a bit. Time to where, so you were in college and you were getting a software engineering degree. You're coming out of college trying to decide what you do. So as you're coming out of college, how did you start out? How did you start out your career, or where did you start your career?
I will start a bit earlier. When I was 8, I wrote my first computer program. Right. I don't remember exactly what it did, but it was my first software written in C, plain C language. So that was a game, as far as I remember. But since then, I evolved as a developer. I developed from small utilities to complex solutions. But the understanding that I want to be a software engineer came a bit later. I developed my first program, but in several years, I decided to dedicate my life to software. So, but I started from low-level development. So that means assembly language, processor instructions, some very time optimizations. So when you're in lack of resources and you need to your application, your program need to make as fast as possible. That what I did for about 10 years. And
Before we
also,
dive, so that's a
yep,
long time to dive in. So first of all, that's cool that you're very cool that you wrote your first software program at the age of 8. I didn't even know what a computer, maybe I knew what a computer was, but that's about all I knew at the age of 8. And so kudos to you to be able to dive into that. So you did that. Now you go off to college. So you kind of get started down the career or go down that path at 8. Did you carry that interest into high school? Did you keep programming, keep coding, or how did what did that kind of, once you did coding, you were hooked, or how did that work out for you?
yeah, of course. I kept coding, and I involved as a coder. I started learning new skills, new languages, new platforms. There was these years, there wasn't too many options for a developer. Now we have a lot of frameworks, but these days there wasn't too many. And the obvious things were to go to low-level development, which I went to. So that's professionals of some levels talking to each other that I'm too professional, you're not. So I thought that low-level developer is more professional than the high-level developer.
So you continue on that passion and that drive. So you did it throughout high school. You went and got your software engineering degree. So now you're coming out of college, and so let's say you're looking for the first job, right? You want to actually make some money, start to pay off loans, or start to be able to cash flow your life. So did you start going out and working for big business, small business, or where did you start out your career once you had that software engineering degree?
I started as a private company in the right after I graduated from the university. I started as private software developers, offer consultancies to various people. But this occupation won't last a long time. So I found first job since half a year I graduated from university. This job was related to software engineering. That was software engineering, and that wasn't a big company. Being honest, I don't like big companies. I prefer small because the employees there are universal. They can do this, and this, and smaller companies give more opportunity for employees to grow.
So you graduate, you go and go work for the small company. And I think you mentioned when we talked a little bit before the podcast, you were doing kind of security research and you were a software developer, and then you kind of moved up a little bit of the chain of command, so to speak, and went more to software architecture and started working on higher level tasks. Now, if I remember right, you did mention that you did go work for a big business or a bigger company for about 6 months and decided you didn't like that. Is that right?
Absolutely.
So
that was second step. Second step in my journey. First, I built my experience working on smaller companies, and then I decided, I need to go to try myself in companies like world giants. I need to try to look at everything by their eyes. How do they treat the world? I understand that I'm losing many things when I go from small company, when I upgrade from small company to a big one. I'm losing my flexibility, but at the same time, I become more stable. I gain more stability. And after I worked half a year, I realized that this stability not for me. I would better go to do things we are used to do.
So you said, okay, I'm going to go try and work for the big company. It'll give me the stability, a good paycheck each, that I can count on, and those things. And then after 6 months, you're basically saying, yes, the stability is great, but I'm not cut out for the big business type of thing. I like the small culture. I like to have more of an impact and those type of things. So you decide, okay, had enough of the big business. I'm going back to small businesses. So where did you go from there? So you had your small stint in a big company. Did you go back to another small company, or where did you go from there?
Correct. I decided to answer the first question. I decided to go back because I realized that in big companies, you just go straight forward. Where a company go, you go there. You have no chance to say to bring some improvement to a company, because the big company is a big machine. You cannot just invent something in that. The reason why I think so is I seen an example when my colleague he just invented some something, some software, and tried to sell the software to the company he worked in. And his boss told him, okay, I know that you invented, you wrote something during night time and you want us to buy it. Okay, we can do it, but if you fail, that means you'll be fired immediately. If your software fails, that will be your personal failure. But if you just sit on the chair and don't do nothing, there will be all other success.
No, I think that makes sense. And so, I mean, I'm personally a small company guy. I like to be able to do my own thing, run my own thing, have that impact, and actually say, okay, when I do something, you can see the results, as opposed to when you're working for a big company. Oftentimes, you're a much smaller cog in a much bigger wheel type of a thing. So you did that. You moved back to the small company because, saying, hey, big companies, they lack personality. You can't necessarily be your own person. You can't have that impact and all of those things. And that wasn't that good fit. So now, so you work for the small company for a continued period of time. And then how did you, so now and then where along that path did you get to where you're at today? Of how did you continue to navigate? Are you still with the small company? Did you decide to go out and do your consulting, or where did you go from there?
After I moved out from the big company, I decided to extend my passion to software security. I dedicate myself to software security, and so I found a company which was relatively small. It was 20 people only, 20 members, and so I went there as a software developer, just a simple software developer. And after a couple of years, I led the whole department, which was dedicated to software security, because software security development, because no one in this company known what to do with that. So I brought my experience with me. I brought everything, and so founded a new department within the company.
And go ahead.
Yeah, after that, in several years, of course I was aware of modern trends. I definitely follow the trends of artificial intelligence, which surround me. I read newspaper articles, I read books every day for several hours. So I tried myself in modeling, what I do now, and I found a mix that's a blend of security and AI. And soon after, I moved out to another company. I tried every my company change is that I brought something to the new company, new workplace, but at the same time, I get something from there. So, and now, after this journey in security and AI, I say that I work in conjunction of modeling, security, and behavioral psychology.
So now you do that. So now remind me what you work for a small company. You kind of found your, for lack of a better word, niche of, hey, this is where I can fit in, where I can do security, where I can do AI, where I can kind of utilize my skills. Now, are you doing consulting? Did you stay with a small company? How did you kind of bringing it up to where you're at today? What are you doing today? Is it kind of a mix of working for small businesses, doing your own thing, or how did that play out for you?
Yes, absolutely right. I Nowadays I work as a independent consultant. I offer consulting services for security and security architecture and AI. And at the same time, I have a couple of clients who are more than just clients. They are companies where I employed.
Hmm. So, and what made you decide? So you worked for a small business, worked for a big business, went back to small business, and now you're doing consulting. What made you go from working for the small business to saying, "Hey, I'm going to go for doing consulting"? What made you kind of make that switch or that transition?
I try myself in any particular area. So
Hmm.
I need to understand where the better.
Hmm.
And now I think that for me, independency is the best one.
Hmm.
So of course I run some side projects on my own. And I'm more about playing and experiencing what's going on. So how to implement my skills, my knowledge to products which will be helpful for people.
Okay. No, it makes perfect sense. And and again, it kind of goes back to it's always, for me in personality, I think for a lot of entrepreneurs and people, you like to have the ability to control your own path, control your own direction. And it makes sense that, you kind of go out on your own so that you can say, hey, this is where I can specialize, provide the most value, and then I can work with clients that I can help the most. So that kind of brings you up to where you're at today. So now as we were to say, looking at the next 6 months to a year, where do you see yourself headed? Does it continue to be a consultant, continuing to grow your client base, or do you see it going off in a new direction, or how do you see it working out for the next 6 to 12 months for you?
For the next year, I'm going to extend my consultancy services. I am going to continue and make it more solid, make it more strong, uh, get a client base, and extend my client base. And then at this point, after a year, I will decide where to go further.
Okay, so continue to grow the client base, continue to make it bigger and better, and continue to work
Yep.
in the areas that you love. Do that for the next year, and then continue to reevaluate and see as things continue to unfold where you're going or past them. So perfect. Well, now we've reached a point in the podcast. I always ask 2 questions towards the end of the podcast. So we're going to jump to those now. So the first question I always ask is, along your journey, what was your worst business decision you ever made, and what did you learn from it?
The word thing I have is that I haven't started that before.
Hmm.
I should started my consulting services as long as to create from a university. So we're almost 20 years ago. That would be a good chance for me to make be consistent in the market.
Hmm. And I think that certainly is a bit of a common thread that you hear amongst different people is, my biggest mistake is I should have started earlier. This is fun. I enjoy it. I'm passionate about it. And if only I'd started earlier, how much farther ahead would I have been, and how much more would I have enjoyed it? So I think that that one's certainly a commonality of wanting to, once you get that bug, once you try it out and you're successful and you can start to do what you want to do, always wanting to do it or wishing you'd done it earlier, making that dive earlier. So I think that's a one that we hear repeatedly, and I think it makes complete sense. So now the second question I always ask is, so if you're now talking to someone that's just getting into startups or small businesses, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
I will give several. First is start as early as possible and don't waste your time.
Mm.
Define your priorities and each day study something new, and don't hesitate to ask. People are open when they are asked. So if you have a question, you may ask someone and he will respond definitely.
No, I like that, and I think it makes sense, and I even like the end of that, if you have questions, ask people, and I think that's oftentimes us as, people as entrepreneurs, oftentimes you're too worried about asking questions, or you want to know or show that you know everything, or you're making the right decisions. But I like the idea of even asking people, because that's a great place for knowledge that you can oftentimes get farther ahead, more understanding, and a great understanding. And so to take that leap of asking people questions, learning from other people is a great thing that I think certainly reinforces. Well, as people want to reach out to you, they want to hire you as a consultant, they want to know more about what you're doing, they want to or pick your brain about cyber or security, they want to ask you about AI, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you or get to find out more about you?
Through the website. I have a website which is the link maxlive.com. There's a possibility to book a consultancy, and the first consultancy is always free. And then I understand the client requirements, and I understand what the task is, and then take time to prepare, and then we can discuss in more detail.
All right. And that's just your first name, Max, and then your last name. And how do you pronounce your last name one more time?
Silaev, Silaev.
All right. So Max and then SILAEVE.com is your website, and they can certainly find out a bit more about you, schedule the free consultation, kind of get a scope of what they might need and what services you might be able to provide. So perfect. Well, I certainly invite everybody to check you out more on the website, reach out to you, Max, and to certainly use your services. Now, for all of you that are listeners, if you want to come on to the Inventive Journey and you have your own journey to tell, feel free to apply to be on the podcast by going to inventivejourneyguest.com. If you're a listener, make sure to click subscribe so you get notifications as all the new awesome episodes come out. And last but not least, if you ever need help with your patents and trademarks, feel free to reach out to us at Miller IP Law by going to strategymeeting.com and grab some time, and we're happy to help. Thank you again, Max. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun to hear your journey, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you, Devin.